Well, I think we need to focus a lot on our young men, but not necessarily whether or not they have a job, but their emotional intelligence, the ability to deal with a stressful situation and the ability to get out of that stressful situation can help them in a lot of ways, and it can help them get over some of the hardships that they've had to endure their entire life.
We want for you to hear us, and we want to continue to hear you, and we want to continue to be a part of those conversations together. These panels should occur together, not separate from one another.
For this movement to work in this period of time, the revolution must definitely be televised.
There's a foundation that has gotten us this far, and I feel like we shouldn't let that go. And that foundation is organizing. That foundation is in the community, doing the work, reaching the people, reaching our youth. And I mean, we don't really need to figure them out. They can figure themselves out. All we need to do is just build a leader inside them, and they'll handle it. They'll take it from there.
You are obligated, no matter where you come from, what you're doing, you are obligated to find time for your community. We need to go out and we need to sit down and listen to the people in the community. We are that talented 10th. We're the top 10%. We're doing well, we're helping others, but how about those that need to be helped? That's who we need to be listening to. We need to have an open ear to them, and they need to have the opportunity to tell their stories. And based upon their stories, that's how we need to work this movement.
Hip hop is the language of the youth. As a teacher, when you ask young black boys, what do they want to be when they grow up? They usually respond by saying either athletes or rappers. And I think the question that we have to ask ourselves is why. We can't have a movement in 2010 without technology or without hip hop when we're talking about young black youth.
And I think that's the problem too with the movement, is that oftentimes we get so, involved in what we do, like, yeah, I'm a pastor here, I'm a doctor this, but the kids are missing that link. We don't feel connected.
We've coined ourselves the new abolitionist movement because we have to think of it in terms of mental slavery that's attacking our young people. They're stuck in a mind that they don't know that they're in. They're in a state of slavery that they don't know that they're in. So a lot of us have gone forward to create programs to pull them out of this state of mental slavery, because we can go talk to them. I can go to the corner and be like, yo, what's good? You all right? You good? I mean, and really understand where they're coming from, and they'll know where I'm coming from. But what we need from you all is to be the safe houses on the route. See, we're learning to figure out to coordinate the route, because we just kind of finding it on our own. We're just kind of poking around and figuring out where we need to go. But coming here today, I can see my safe houses. I can see Harlem Children's Home. I can see all of the various programs where we need to get these young people to get them to a mental state of consciousness, freedom.
It is really important for the youth to understand what occurred during the civil rights and Black Power movements, because they need that context of a social movement activism, social movement strategy. And someone said earlier, of course, the strategies and tactics are going to be different, but there needs to be this context and this connection to a legacy of our predecessors. I think that we need to present a different model of what it means to be a man and a woman. Plain and simple, what you contribute to the Black community does not have to be predicated on the traditional roles of, for a woman primarily being a mother, for a man primarily being the breadwinner or being the quote-unquote protector, but that everyone can contribute with human characteristics. So men can be sensitive, men can be nurturing, women can be breadwinners, but really allowing people to contribute to the best of their abilities, what they can. So I think that is the most important thing, deconstructing those gender ideologies for our young boys and girls.
Are you part of the problem or are you part of the solution? We are the market participating in our own destruction. Until we are conscious enough to be willing to stand up and say, I'm not going to tolerate this from a macro standpoint.
We have lost a sense of our community values. That's something we've already talked about. We need to identify those issues and form our community values. What really do we value in the Black community? Like we said, we don't know what Black is. We don't know what it is because we don't know what to value anymore. We don't know whether we want it to be money or, upper mobilization. We don't know what it is, so we need to identify that.
I think that a critical aspect of it, in regard to both questions, is an understanding of your purpose. And I'm of the persuasion that you can't do this without faith. And that if you examine every single movement that there was a fundamental connection to God. And that you can't, and to attempt to do this solely as a logical or intellectual enterprise is deluding yourself.
The thing that I would love to see, if you're talking about a movement, is for this people of color to come together and fight issues of violence, of racism, of poverty all together.
And the civil rights movement was never a vocation. It was a calling. It was never your job. We created nonprofits after the movement, but she said during the real movement, people worked in law firms and they got off work and they were driving people and making sure they got to church. People worked in clinical psychology, but then they made sure they were still involved with movement work. And I don't think it behooves us to have everyone working for CDF, because who's going to make the policies? Who's going to write the laws? Who's going to be in Goldman Sachs making sure they give us money? So I think we need black people everywhere who are just cognizant and movement-minded.